Welcome back to another episode of Unlocking Our Code podcast. What if limiting beliefs aren't your whole story, but just a chapter in it? What if the things you once believed about yourself, your worth, and your path were never meant to be the final word? In this episode, we're going to be talking about the quiet beliefs that hold us back and the courage it takes to see them, question them, and choose something new. Here with me, I have Phoebe. Hi, Phoebe.
Hi.
Hello. You ready to talk about limiting beliefs?
Yes, I love this topic. It's one of my favorites. It's
I
like
know.
my area of expertise, limiting beliefs.
Right?
Yes.
And how it feels to be able to question them and challenge them. How it feels to be able to kind of take a step back and see like where it stems from, or why is it that, just really just challenging ourselves, right? I think it's super cool that we're able to do that we have the self-awareness to do that. So
yeah, I love that. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that really drew me to this topic was that I've been finding myself lately talking to, like, the last few conversations I've had, the deep conversations that I've had have kind of all they all drew me back to that, like to where where I've been telling people, well, we have to also remember what this person's beliefs are. Or I'll say things like, well, let's remember, it's just like I kind of always again, I'm like a visual person, so I have to like visualize, like I in order to help people see, is like the way, like if we're growing a tree, and like a tree that has been for 30 years, how, what seed was it grown with? How was it watered? What type of environment did it grow in? And now it's like this huge full grown tree. And so how all of these things affected the way it grew. It's very similar to us human beings and the things that were poured into us, and then, all of that. So it's a lot. It's a whole bunch of stuff that come with this episode, but I'm ready. You ready to dive into it?
Yeah, for sure. And I did. I wanted to ask you why this episode matters in this moment for you.
I think for me, it really is important to share it with our listeners and whoever else jumps on. Because just in the state that everything's in, it's definitely helped me to be able to see other people and understand more, instead of taking things so personal, like an attack towards me, or towards, is really helping me. It helps me, and I'll just talk about my perspective. Understanding beliefs, it's helped me understand myself of really questioning things, how I was raised, and it set me free, knowing that I don't have to stick to those beliefs. I know where they come from. A lot of them come from the way I was raised, my parents and their parents and their parents, or society norms, or things that happen, like that I've gotten from like friendships, like just things that stuck with me, that I just felt like this is the way it's supposed to be, right? This is the way it's supposed to be. And it kind of it limits you, right? So once you realize that a belief is just a belief, it doesn't mean it's real. It doesn't mean it's like stamped in concrete. It doesn't mean that it's permanent. And when you start to believe that, it's so freeing, or you start to realize that it's freeing. But then also you get to see others from that point of view as well. And I think it's super important right now for the world to remember that everybody was raised differently. We weren't even even siblings were raised different. Even if you were raised in the same household as your sibling, different things stuck to you, different things happened. Like everything was so different. So even what you believe that your sibling might not believe, you know what I mean? Even that is just so, everybody is so different. So I think it's super important for the world to remember that in a place where everything feels so divided, everyone feels so, you want to just judge everyone and stuff like that. So I think it's important to keep it in mind,
Yeah, it brings the humanness out of everyone, right? It's a topic that's very it fits with everyone because we're all human. We all have, every single person on earth has a set of beliefs, right? And so it's something it's a topic that definitely is for everyone. Anyone that's that feels like they need to learn a little bit more on this topic or that want to expand on this topic. For me, it matters because I'm actually in the middle of rewriting my own story in a deeper level. One that is mine and that is not just information that was fed to me in my upbringing and then it just became my truth, right? That I adopted that and then it became mine and then I've continued to pass on whatever was passed on to me. So I'm very much in the middle of learning to release the old stories. I mean, I've been on a journey, but just specifically right now, I'm in the process of working through some limiting beliefs that I'm working with and learning to rewrite them as my own instead of what was fed to me at one point, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You're freeing yourself from the things that tied you to a specific, this is where you're anchored there and you can't even roam, because you're anchored in these beliefs and now you're just you're like, all right, well, I would love to go there, but I believe this, so I can't even do that.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of defining, it's defining what limiting beliefs are. Is really limiting beliefs are ideas that we've internalized, right? It often comes from our parents, our culture, and a lot of it is religion as well, right? And these ideas really hold us back from, I think they hold us back from living authentically, and then they really just in general just affect how we see even ourselves, because we have limiting beliefs on ourselves too, and how we see others and just the world in general. So that's what I, for anyone really not understanding what limiting beliefs are, they're just the ideas. It's just an idea. Again, it's not a hard truth. It's not a fact. It's just an idea. A belief is just a belief, right?
Yep.
So those are the things that we want to discuss, and it's super important, like Dee says, for personal growth, for healing, for rewriting your story, for living authentically you, for who you are, who you want to be, not for whatever beliefs and ideas anchored you on, anchored you somewhere, and then that's it. You're just like a boat. You were anchored to this little shoreline, and you can't even be free to roam the ocean because,
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. I also see limiting beliefs as just information, like you said, information that was inherited through my upbringing, meaning my environment, my experiences in life, trauma, my parents, caregivers, school, and ancestral, right? It's basically information that was fed to me and that I adopted as my own truth, right? And then from these beliefs, I began making my own choices in life, and it shaped my own perspective of life and basically everything that I did, right? So from this belief system that I'm under, it's where everything else is born.
Yeah.
It's the belief system is the computer's software. It's the software that we were programmed to run under, and now that's how we are living our life based on this belief system. And when we begin questioning this system, that's when our lives begin to change, right? Either for the good, if that's what you choose to, or not, if that's what you choose to, right? But most of the time, people start questioning this system because something in their life is just not going the way they wanted to. They've hit rock bottom, very unhappy with everything in their life at that moment. So they start seeking for answers. And what ignites this process is actually questioning your belief systems. Why I do, why do I react to that in that way? Why do I believe that, right? And there's power in questioning these beliefs. What do you feel like for you has been the power of questioning these beliefs?
I think it's been being able to stand in my own truth. And even though it felt like I was kind of betraying maybe sometimes, like, I've mentioned before in the past that, I've when I was raised like in two different religions. Like at some point in my life I was Catholic, and then we moved over to Jehovah's Witness, and then I went back to Catholic, back to Jehovah's Witness. So I was kind of confused in that form. I saw that I'll just stick kind of to the religion right now, and saw how that kind of affected me, and in the way that I saw how religion kind of not tore apart, but really like put a wedge in the family, and it just wasn't like healthy. And then I just started questioning everything, and and so then it made me feel like I didn't want to be a part of religion, but then at the same time I didn't want to lose my faith, but I did, because I was in between like not wanting to believe and wanting to and stuff like that. But then it was very it was hard for me to go back and have faith and be open and open my heart to it again, because I felt like I was betraying. I felt like if I didn't have a religion that I was following, I couldn't have faith, or I couldn't be a believer, or I couldn't believe in higher power or God. And so then that was like very controversial in my own head, right? Like I was like, how do I, but again, that's a belief. I believed that if I didn't pick a religion, I couldn't have faith. I couldn't be a believer. I couldn't pray to God. I couldn't be, I couldn't have a relationship with him. So again, that was a belief for me. And that was something that I had to fight through, because you're fighting yourself basically. But then coming out of the other end, I'm like, I have a very strong relationship. I pray. I'm so thankful. I'm grateful. That's my buddy. I'm talking to him all day long, and I stand strong in that. In that, when I hear people say, well, if you have faith, then you're just a Christian. And I'm just like, I'm neither. I'm nothing. I don't choose to be this or that. I'm not, that's not what I am. And I stand strong in that. And I feel really free, and I feel really strong about me standing in my own truth and saying, I have faith. I have a relationship with him, and I do not need to be in any in any religion. I don't need to be following a religion for that purpose. So that's just one example, right? But that just itself is so freeing. And I feel so authentic, so me. I'm not trying to be anyone. I'm not trying to follow anybody's shoes. I'm not trying to look good in society, quote unquote, or whatever. I could care less. So just being authentic, me, living me, my full story, right? That's what it does to me.
Yeah, for sure. Because I feel like when we don't follow, like you said, our authenticity, our own path, our own guidance that we have, and we just live a life where we are following the beliefs that we inherited or that we were programmed to believe in, we are no longer living our own life. We are living somebody else's passed down beliefs. And it's why we start feeling unhappy. Like I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel something is wrong. We start feeling like just something's not balanced. and we start feeling miserable, unhappy with our own lives because we're not living our own life. We are just living based on a software that was installed in us since we were kids, and we believe that that's our truth. But little do we know that that doesn't have to be our truth, right? That information doesn't have to be your whole story. It's a chapter, right?
Yeah.
Basically, as a kid, we had no choice of what, we didn't have a choice or control of what we were being taught growing up, right? But now as adults, that can no longer be an excuse anymore, right? Now as an adult, we get to question everything. That software can be questioned. That software can be upgraded to what best serves you. And that's what we need to remember, that software doesn't have to be the software we run with all of our life. We don't have to keep running with the same belief systems that are old, that are not even ours to begin with. Because just imagine, when we began learning or programming ourselves with beliefs, we had to be very young, right? Very, very young. So how can a belief system from 30 years ago could still be serving us 30 years later? It could serve us to survive, but that's not to thrive. It will, a lot of the belief systems that we learned growing up, like, I mean, I could talk for myself. A lot of my belief systems that I learned just taught me how to survive, how to stay alive. But those belief systems didn't teach me how to thrive, right? And it's not that it's my parents' fault. It's what they were programmed. Right? It's what they followed from the previous generation and the previous generation. So it's just a set of belief systems that our generations have been on for hundreds of years. And then this information just keeps getting passed on until something's just not adding up anymore, right? Until we start feeling that inner guidance that we're just not happy, right?
Yeah, and it's just like everything, right? Like if you look what you're saying right now, think about what you're saying right now. What, at least to me in my brain, what comes up that connects what you kind, like, again, visual person, is like exactly what you said. A system that's just keeps going from 30 years. Even systems themselves get upgraded. Phones get upgraded. Everything cannot run on the same system from 30 years ago. It just doesn't. It's not going to work. There's new information coming in. There's new facts that are just coming in. There's new everything coming in. So how do we stand here and say we still have to continue these old self-limiting beliefs from God knows how many years ago because we need to be more, we need to conserve these things, you know? And it's like,
because they're tradition.
It's a tradition, whatever the case might be, right? So it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way, right? And so when we start becoming aware of these things, and yeah, it is very true. You start to really question yourself, like, who am I? You know, how many times have people asked that question? Who am I? What is it that I want in life? What is it that I want to achieve? Why don't I feel fulfilled? It's because we're living somebody else's program. You need to upgrade, right? You need to come to the new, upgrade yourself already. Start questioning things like that. And there's so many self-limiting beliefs. And I wrote some down because there's so many, but I kind of wanted to go through some of them so it can capture the listener's idea of what we're talking about, right? So some self-limiting ones, right, would be something like, I'm not good enough. You know, that what does that do? It holds people back from pursuing opportunities, speaking up, or taking risks, right? Someone that stays in a job that they hate because they don't believe they're qualified for a better one. That's one example of a self-limiting belief. Or I need to be perfect to succeed, right? What does this lead to? It leads to procrastination, burnout, or fear of failure. I don't deserve happiness. It keeps people stuck in unhealthy relationships and situations. Like someone can stay in a toxic relationship because they don't believe that they deserve better. There's beliefs about money and success. Like some people believe that money is evil, oh, money's greed, money's evil, money's this, don't ever want it, don't want more. Or some people believe we never have enough of it, money's scarce, like there's never enough, we never have enough. So this limits your financial growth, and it creates a mindset of lack. You're always lacking it. You never have it because you believe that either it's evil or you never have enough, right? Success means working 24/7. And if you're not working all the time, you're lazy or you're never going to get ahead in life, right? So what does this do to a person? It leads to burnout or neglect of your well-being, right? That's really, and how many times does that happen? I mean, it happened to me, right? You know, you prioritize your work over your family, you prioritize your work over your health, your hobbies, and you believe that this is the only way to succeed. You have to work 24/7. There's like you rest when you're dead. How many people have said that to me? There's beliefs about relationships, right? I need to settle for what I have. I need to, because this person is good at A, B, and maybe D, or A, C, and B, or whatever. But all the rest of the stuff they're lacking. But I just need to settle. So it keeps people in unfulfilled relationships. Or love means to sacrifice myself. Oh my God.
That's a big one.
Right?
Yeah.
I have to sacrifice myself. It's a sacrifice. What does it do? It leads to codependency and loss of yourself. You lose your self-identity when you sacrifice all the time for the other person. There's beliefs about gender roles. Women should handle all the household responsibilities. Ugh, me right there, big time. That's a huge belief that I had. And it creates an imbalance. It creates resentment in your relationship. I am huge. I'm an example, prime example of how that creates a huge imbalance, right? And you start to resent certain things in your relationship when that belief is that the women should handle all the household responsibilities along with the kids and all this other shit, right? Or men shouldn't show any emotion, right? What does that do? Don't cry. What do you start telling your kids, your little boys? Boys don't cry. Boys don't cry. Don't be a girl. Don't cry. You know? It leads to emotional suppression. This is how men start. This is where men begin to suppress their emotions. And then they have mental health struggles. And they struggle with it. They grow up and then they have all these relationships that they just cannot connect emotionally with a woman or with their partner or with a female. Because since they were young, somebody was telling them, boys don't cry. Don't be a girl. Don't do that. Don't be a little sissy. You don't cry. You put up with it, you know? Their beliefs about parenting. Good parents always put their kids first, which I get it. I'm not going to fight anybody over it, but we need to also remember that there's such thing as a parent burnout.
Yeah.
Like we forget about self-care. We neglect it. And then we're exhausted, we're tired, we're always giving, and we never give back to ourselves, right? Or this is the one that we talked about and I struggled with. Children should follow a specific path in order to succeed. And if they didn't follow this path right out of high school, they didn't go to a 4-year or they're not going to university, like what are you doing? What kind of parent are you, right? And what does this do to a kid? It limits their creativity, their autonomy to be themselves, to choose what they want to do. You know, that's a belief. Beliefs about friendship. I have to say yes to everything to keep my friends, or friends should always agree with me. You know, that's one thing that I used to struggle with, people pleasing. I always said yes to everyone, even though I was like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to split myself in two, but I'm going to figure it out, you know? And I just didn't know anything about setting boundaries. It was like so hard. Or friends should always agree with me, right? It really limits someone's way of like seeing conflict and not dealing with conflict. So either you agree with me or it's gonna be all fighting and I don't like you anymore and we're not gonna talk. But there's so many. There's beliefs about politics. I mean, are we really gonna have to go there into politics?
No.
That's fucking crazy, right? Politics. It's like if you're blue, you're definitely you're a specific person. If you're red, you're a specific person. We're just prejudiced. There's division. There's missed opportunities. There's zero connection. You're just crazy, or you can't make a difference in the world. Like everyone's chaotic. You just can't make a difference. It's just insane. Like that's another one. There's beliefs about identity. I'm too old to or I'm too old or too young to pursue my dreams. That's ridiculous, you know? I'm just like my parents, so I'll never change. You cannot be helpless like that, right? Beliefs about your health, your body image. I need to look a certain way to be loved, to feel accepted, or to even love myself and be happy with myself. It's just crazy. There's so many things, you know, about spirituality. If you're not spiritual enough, you can't meditate or pray. Like, these are just so many things, right? That all these ideas that came up, and I was like, these are limiting beliefs. These are just some of the main limiting beliefs. There's so many, though. There's so many, but these are the type of things that we need to start to really question. Like, how real are they? Where do they come from? Who told us these things? And not only that, but when you're writing on those, like I said, all the things that I gave as an example, that it can affect you as an adult, as a person in your life, that's all real stuff. And I think so many of everyone's goes through these things or is going through those things.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure. I feel that. Even like for me, everything that you said is like spot on, right? I think we've all experienced some level of limiting belief around every topic. For me, I feel like even right now in this very specific moment, I'm dealing with working with limiting beliefs around parenting. That has been something that's been coming up for me. I'm on the second week of that, of diving deep into that area. And it's been very eye-opening to actually look at the belief systems that I have specifically. It's been coming up within the male lineage for me. So that's like an example, right? I have a 14-year-old son, and it started showing up with him. He was my mirror to my beliefs. And, you know, obviously when we are seeing certain limiting beliefs, it doesn't feel good, right? But it's like the best way of expanding and growing and changing the story. For me, when I'm working with a limiting belief, in this case, parenting, which is what I'm going through right now, it shows up as fear. Fear is my number. It's like my trigger. That's my trigger. That's my red flag. And it's telling me there's a limiting belief. You know, I could either look at fear as like, oh, I'm scared, and I could go down that rabbit hole, which it takes me usually nowhere. I'll come back to where I started, but it happens. But actually this morning, I started working on that even deeper, which was, okay, fear is here, and it's alerting me about a limiting belief I have within parenting, specifically within my son, right? And it's coming up because he's 14. He's in an age where he's transitioning from, he's about to be 15. He's going to start high school. So he's transitioning from being in middle school as a teenager to now high school. And I think that's why it's happening, right? Yeah. And now I start feeling fear, right? Feeling the fear of the male lineage, of everything I've experienced in my life, not only watching my own male lineage in my family, but like my brothers and my nephews, what they have lived in that age, right? So I started feeling fear of my son repeating these cycles that our male lineage has suffered from, right? And when I started noticing like, okay, I'm feeling afraid that my son's going to repeat these stories, I was like spiraling for a while. And I could also see through my son's eyes that this was weighing heavy on him, right? Because I was parenting him out of fear, right? And he can sense that. At an energetic level, he can sense that that his mom is very afraid and is very worried for him, right? So in the process of me seeing that I have limiting beliefs of fear around the males, because of everything I've experienced since a very young age, right? All the way up until now, that I was abandoning my own son, right? That's what I was seeing, that through this limiting belief that I have, that I am in fear, now I can't see my son. I can't see him for who he is. All I'm seeing is the shadows, right? Everything I've lived, everything I've seen, everything I've endured within the male lineage. But in that process, like I said, I couldn't see him, I couldn't hear him because of that. Because I have this belief that my son is in danger at all times, right? So when I started diving into that belief, I seen that, okay, this is the like what I'm feeling, but what's really under this is that what started this whole pattern in my family is the children being abandoned, not being seen, even though the mother's right next to them. They were not seen, they were not heard, and they were not celebrated for being who they are. This is exactly what started that pattern, right? So I'm like, I'm reliving that pattern. I am so afraid of what could be, even though it's not even happening, that in that process, I'm not seeing my son. I'm comparing him all the time, like, oh, don't do that because then that could happen. Don't do that because I live that and I seen what happens if you do that. So just bombarding him with fear and worry all the time, to the point that I'm sure he's felt abandoned, alone, because I'm just worried all the time for his safety, right? So I was able to see that it's a limiting belief I have, that the males are not safe because of everything that I've seen in my life, right? And being able to see that it was just a limiting belief I have because of everything I've been through liberated me. I was able to see my son. I was able to understand that this is just information. Fear is just giving me information that I have limiting parenting beliefs and that I have to work through them so that I can see my son. Because if I continue on this path, I will abandon him the way it's happened in the past, right? So it gave me an opportunity to not only see that fear that I felt, it wasn't even about my son. It was about my own stories, about what I've lived. And I was able to sit with him and have a conversation. Even before I came on here, I sat with him and I explained everything. And I said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for always comparing to you. I'm sorry, opening those conversations so that he can understand and that we can start new, right? No longer, I don't have to parent from fear.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And that's just like an example of what I've been going through at this time with that limiting belief that was passed on through what I lived, right? Through what I've seen growing up in my life.
And he's so, and I feel like when you're doing that, you're kind of like putting a blanket over him. Like you said, you're not seeing him for who he is anymore. Now he is the belief that you have. Now he's the fear that you have. That's who he turned out to be, And so he absolutely right. They feel misunderstood. They feel like you're not listening. You're not seeing me. You're not. And then if that would have continued, I'm pretty sure the pattern would have continued at that point, because that's what it is when you're not listening to your kids, you're not giving them the place, or and it's one of the things that's a huge belief that that happens in parenting, that kids are kids. It doesn't matter what you say. It's what I say. You don't have a say. It's what I tell you to do, or it's like, who cares what they want? Like, it's what we want, and it's just like, no, they're little human beings. They have their own thoughts. Like, aren't you curious to know what they're thinking, to know what they would want to do? Like, they have it's their own person. They have a soul. They have a purpose in this world. Like, we should be trying to aid that and make it bigger and give it power, and so they can become fully who they are. But it's like what we're tortured with our past and our traumas and our beliefs and everything. We shrink them down to these kids with no voice. They feel like my voice isn't important, what I want isn't important, and then we start giving them all this self-doubt. That's where we start creating a human with all these issues, where they start to have their own self-doubt, their own belief issues. Then they start to grow anchors, and then they just can't move past that, And that's what this is. This gives us so much awareness to be able to not do that to our children and move past that. And I feel like what you're talking about with your kid parenting is, oh my God, that's a whole different monster. But yes, that's one of the things that I had to go through too, you know, dealing with how I felt the world was seeing me if my son wasn't like, you know, going to a college, or, oh my God, if he's not doing this, like, how am I being looked at? Like, you know, my kid should be doing this. But it's like, now I had to work through that. You know, I had to sit here. I sided with you. I told you about my fear, about the way I believed things, and then coming down really into it and realizing like, oh, that's just really something that we believe the society taught us, right? That's the way it should be. I can't even tell you it comes from my parenting, because we weren't raised that way. We weren't pushed to go to college. We were just kind of like, well, you want to work? All right, fine, go to work, you know? But that's a belief that that grew from society, right? From the environment that we're in. So that's, you know, so it's definitely beliefs. How they're passed down is not always from your family or your upbringing, right? From what we saw from modeling behavior and stuff like that, from observing our parents and siblings and caregivers, right? But it's also, again, a cultural and society, right? Like what society often dictates is appropriate, like what it should happen. And then like you are around your friends and you're like, oh shoot. And if you feel like you're not like them, it's like, oh my God, right? Education and schooling also, I feel like education also gives you specific certain, you know, like you have to follow these career paths, you have to like do certain subjects and stuff like that. Like I feel that's also another thing that gives us like that, where the belief system comes from. Other things that create these belief systems definitely is religion, or spiritual teachings, right? Where they often have these rules about what's right and what's wrong, quote unquote, right? And then we fall into that, and then we start to like judge ourselves first and foremost. We judge ourselves if we don't fall into that right and wrong, or into that right, and then we feel bad, we feel terrible, we feel shame, and then we start to judge others that don't fall into that same. So that's always been my thing with religion. I just can't. But then also personal experiences, our traumas, our failures, that gives us that starts our belief systems come from there, and social, political systems, the media. So that's all, we can get all that absorbed into us. And then we start to forget who we are, because we just start putting all these things, all these weights, all these anchors, you know. Now, oh, my friends, oh, my social this, oh, politics that, oh, this is how it should be, oh, the, you know, church said this, oh, parents said that. And so now you're just like a tiny little boat stuck there in the freaking, that's exactly what I envisioned, another anchor. So now you just can't even, you're not even free to roam anymore.
Yeah. And it becomes like a self trap, right?
Yes.
But the beauty of this all, right, is that we have the power to rewrite all of this. And that's like the most freeing and powerful message we can share, is that even after everything that we've said, even after everything we've shared, yes, that is the side of the limiting beliefs. That is how easy we can adopt a belief system and then just run with it and think that that's who we are, that's who I am, and I'll be that forever.
It's the way it is. That's the way it is.
And but we just remind you that it doesn't have to be that all your life, right? Even with the example I just gave with my son, right? Yes, it's been like that for many, many years, but now I stopped it. I worked through my fear. I redefined what fear is for me. And it's basically an alert telling me, hey, there's work to do in this area, right? It's not here to harm me or to warn me about, quote unquote, something horrible is going to happen. No, it's here to support me in my journey, right? So we have the power to redefine what things mean to us if we truly want to change our story, right? And like you were saying, like, I mean, limiting beliefs affect us in so many ways, right? Especially the one where we just continue to pass down that information over again to another generation, right? A lot of people think that, I always hear this, right, even from family, oh, my mom had diabetes and now I'm prone to diabetes, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm not a believer of that, right? Everyone has their own way of believing things, but I believe that if you believe the same beliefs and you live a same lifestyle similarly or carry same traumas, yes, you will be prone to certain things that the previous generation had, right? I don't think that is by luck, or I don't believe that is by genetics either. I mean, I'm sure there's certain things, but I don't think that everything that we've been fed to believe, it's exactly the truth, right? It's a lot about what we believe, right? So also, another way that it affects us is that we're not living aligned or authentically, right? We're living somebody else's life. We don't reach our full potential by living somebody else's life. You will be limited to what you do because you have limiting beliefs. That's just the way it is, right? Unless you have beliefs that work for you and that are authentic for you, then you can reach your full potential. But we won't if we just continue to live life by other people's adopted beliefs and we just do life, our whole life like that. It just won't happen, right? And then just like believing that we have to live a life we're not in love with, that we're not happy with. That is
settle.
Yeah, we settle for whatever we have. But there's so much more we can change if we choose to, right?
Yep.
And then also I did want to touch a little bit on how do we realize patterns are not ours. One of the ways for me that it showed up is that my body remembers, right? And one of the ways that happens is you start feeling intense emotions, especially like for me, fear. I just start feeling intense emotions, intense anxiety, intense fear, sadness around a certain thing, right? Even though it hasn't happened. So then that's like my body alerting me, hey, there's information in your nervous system that needs to change, that is not serving you, right? So the body starts alerting you to work on a specific area, whether through emotions, through disease, whatever, however it's communicating with, right?
Yeah.
You also could start feeling anxious, discomfort in your body. You can notice that certain cycles are being repeated, like you see yourself repeating something over and over and over and over. And also you could realize what's happening by tracing the belief back. Go back to the root. Where did I believe this? Who taught me this? Where did I learn it? Where did I pick it up? And is it real? Does it serve me? Can I change this? And then just start working on changing one thing at a time, right? And that's possible. So those are some of the ways that you can realize that the patterns are not yours, and remembering that your beliefs carry a vibration, right? So if you have a certain belief that vibrates at a lower vibration, your result will be the equal to that belief and to that vibration, right? For example, money, I don't have enough. It's never enough. No matter how much I make, it's never enough. That belief vibrates at a low frequency. And if it vibrates at a low frequency and is what we tell ourselves all day, every day when we're dealing with money, you're going to manifest that back because you're vibrating at that. You're putting it out to the universe, right? And most important out of all, you believe it.
Yeah.
Who cares if your bank account has $1 or $2, but you keep believing that that's not you, right? It's the belief system. Yeah. It's a belief system that we have that starts changing our reality. Yeah. That's where it begins. Yep. That's where everything begins. That's how I feel that it begins. Yeah,
for sure. And that's not only that, but when we really start to question our beliefs, when we really start to say, like you mentioned, start to ask, okay, where is this coming from? Where did I learn this from? Right? This where did I learn this behavior, this belief? Where does it come from? And you're gonna start to get people. Just be aware that people are gonna start to question and feel a certain way about you questioning, right? People are gonna start with looking at you like, why are you questioning it? Like, why are you betraying, right? People will start calling you, they'll definitely start feeling threatened, but they're going to start calling you selfish. Like, you're just being so selfish. You just think about yourself, right? Because you're now questioning things that are always been normal in the family or always been normal in your culture, and so now you want to start doing your own thing. How selfish are you, right? And so that's or you betraying. You're betraying what, like, oh, so now you're too good for this. Now you're too this and that. And so they don't want you to do that because they don't want you to disrupt the peace. They don't want you to just let things be the way they've always been, right? But again, I feel like you let things be the way they've always been. You're not, again, like you said, reaching your full potential. You're just really not. And people are going to react this way. They do, because nobody likes change. Everyone's afraid of change, right? And because, I feel like a lot of it is people really they project their fears onto you, will project, I'm not strong enough to change that. I wouldn't have, I've questioned it, but I'm not strong enough to do that. And so their fear of not being able to, or they have that fear, so they're gonna go and say something about you because you're doing it, but even deep down inside they're probably frustrated because they wish they could have done that. You know what I mean? So and so they just kind of start to want to make you feel terrible. It's going to happen. We talked about it. We discussed it in the cycle breaker episode. But it's very similar to that. And it does not mean that that you are being disrespectful, that you're being selfish, and that you're, oh my God, you don't care about your culture or your family or your religion anymore. You're a terrible person. That's not true, right? So you just have to keep remind yourself, stay grounded in your truth. You stand there and you just don't move. You don't let anybody change you, right? And you could just tell people hey, you know what? I'm just exploring what feels right for me. It's not a reflection of you or my culture or my family or my religion, nothing. This is what feels true to me, and it is what it is, right? And you can actually set your boundaries. Not everybody needs to be okay with you. Not everybody needs to agree with you. And that's something that you're going to understand as you're having that self-awareness. But it is going to be hard because people are going to start calling you selfish and, oh, oh, now you're too good or whatever. It's going to happen. It's going to be part of it. And it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's part of disrupting the dysfunction. It's part of being the black sheep. It's part, quote unquote, black sheep, or it's part of being the cycle breaker. Like you said, it comes with it. The discomfort does come with it. But if there's anyone feeling that right now, right, where they have disrupted, quote unquote, a fake peace and a family and a friendship and a relationship, and they follow their heart, they follow their truth, but now they are probably not around the same people, or certain people have abandoned them because of that. Just know that you're not alone. That is part of the process. And if that people have been removed, it's because you're no longer a match to dysfunction. You're no longer a match to those people's vibration. And that is a big win for you, because although it doesn't feel like that in the energetic world, it is. It's a win. You've broken through something. You're in a different timeline than that person, right? And your people will find you. The people that belong with you, that are meant to be a match to you, they will find you eventually.
For sure. I love that. I totally believe it. So, that's one of the things that I did want to ensure that when you do start doing that, and I'm pretty sure, if any listeners have already or feel like they can relate to this episode, I'm pretty sure they're feeling it too, But I mean, there's nothing more powerful, more freeing, more finding if you're trying to struggle, or you're struggling with finding your authentic self, or knowing who you are, or just feeling like, you know what, it's another form of self-love, honestly, too, like being able to say, no, women aren't meant to be the only thing that can clean the house or whatever, or no, money is not, it's not that we don't have money, or, that those are things that you have to start going back and thinking, who used to say that, or where does that come from, and then know that you have the option, you have the chance, you have the right to say, nope, not me, not I, right? And who cares what people think? Like, it doesn't even matter. I just feel like you stand in your truth and know that this is who you're supposed to be. And next thing you know, you'll realize like the answer to that question, like, who am I? Like, who am I authentically? You'll just start to live that life. I feel that life will just start coming to you. But you have to slowly start to remove those anchors and definitely start questioning. And it's a challenge. So challenge yourself. I definitely say challenge yourself. Start questioning, if you have really, really strong beliefs on certain things that you stand in, you're like, this is the way it is. And you find yourself maybe arguing with others about it, and you just really say, no, this is what it is. Why is it that other people don't see it? Or why is it this person doesn't see what I'm seeing? Well, instead of always like asking, why don't they see it? Start asking yourself, like, where does this come from? Because other people have a different point of view. So how is it that someone else can have a different point of view? So take yourself out of your bubble that you're in and start questioning, like, where's this really, really strong belief coming from? And that's the first step.
Yep, I agree. Questioning is the ignition to everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yep. But I don't know, anything else you want to share on this one?
No, I think that we touched everything. We hope that this has served someone out there. We hope that this is an invitation and an initiation to you begin questioning your life, your beliefs, especially if you're at a place where you're not happy, right? Where you don't feel like in this moment things are aligned how they should be. Begin there. Begin questioning why. Why is life like this? What am I believing that's taking me to this result, right? There's a belief behind the result that you have. So just remember that.
Yeah. Yes, I love that. The initiation.
Yes, so thank you everyone for staying till the end. We hope this truly serves someone out there. You know how to find us at Unlocking Our Code podcast, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.